Hi everyone, I am Nontuthuko Maseko, but you guys can call me Nontu, and I'm very excited to be introducing to you a series that I named Practice Notes from One Social Worker to Another Social Worker. In this series, I basically become the older sister that I never had. I will hold your hand as you go through your first few months of practice and you try to navigate the world of working, if I should call it like that. I do not promise you perfect advice. I do not promise you perfect solutions, but I basically share how I navigated my first few months of working as a social worker. I hope that you will learn a thing or two and it will boost your confidence as a social worker practicing in South Africa. In this episode, I'll be talking about how you can navigate the shock of when theory does not seem to be meeting practice. So let us get straight right into it. What you learned at university may not perfectly fit what you will find in a real life context, and that could be because of many reasons. I'll make an example. I did my practicals in a school setting, and my first placement was not necessarily in a school setting, and I had to navigate office, community work, and that was quite different. I was placed in an organization where it was their first time they had professional social workers. It was their first time they had hired professional nurses. So basically it was a learning curve for literally everyone, us the social workers, and also for management itself. You would want, as a first-time social worker, to be placed in a context where you're just shown the ropes easily. Go there, and things just start flowing. But I found myself in a situation where I had to learn to navigate the different areas by myself, and also to some extent did find myself in situations where I had to teach my fellow colleagues who were in different departments how to work with me. Yes, so you teach the people around you about your profession so that they can learn to give it the necessary respect and also the necessary resources that you may need to navigate. Another thing that made it a little bit hard for me to apply what I had learned in university in the context that I found myself in was the availability of resources. Everything is perfect in theory. Everything is just smooth and flowing when you picture yourself working as a social worker and going through your notes as a university student. Okay, I'm gonna have my perfect office. I'm gonna if a client comes in and they need something, I'll know to jump and do this. If I have to attend to a home visit, I'll know what to do. I'll jump at it like this and like that. But oh honey, in the real world, it does not necessarily work like that. I was in a situation where for the first few months of working, we had to share the vehicle amongst us as social worker and amongst other departments for others program related activities. Even with social work related posts, you are asked, do you have a driver's license? So you will think that no, I have access to my own car, I'll drive myself and I'll go to all the home visits the way I would want to navigate. And honey, sometimes it will not be like that. You will have to be dropped off at a home visit, and I know the safety reasons related to that that we could probably explore and talk about later, but the situation required that I had to conduct a home visit, and I could not have a vehicle stationary simply for me. At that point, the vehicle also had to attend to other issues, other program related issues. So I would be dropped off and I'd have to figure my way around the situation. At times, there would not be a vehicle and we had to adjust and create a system where I would have to use cabs. So we'd be compensated for using cabs to attend to perhaps community events, and sometimes when it was truly pressing and there was no transport, you could also do your home visits. So again, it goes back to when you think about it and you go through your theory in university, you think it's all perfect, but sometimes it's not that. You have to navigate certain things differently, and that needs you to be a strong character. You will need to be brave, and please, it does not mean that you have to put yourself through obviously unsafe situations. Do not do anything that you are uncomfortable with. But if you're brave enough and you are familiar with the area, you are going to have to explore those situations the way that you have to. You basically will have to find a way to make it work, despite what you thought or you had pictured in your head. I remember when I was still a student and I was picturing myself as a social worker. I had the Department of Social Development type of setting in mind, because I remember in my first year I did my shadowing at the Department of Social Development. So I figured that once I start working, it's going to be those vibes. I'm going to have my own office space, access to my own car. And it was just a smooth sailing. I'll be able to attend to my clients the way I want to. And that was not the case. I was placed at a community center, and it did not meet my expectations. And also the fact that I had to share an office space. So I had to learn to navigate that. You know how they do those YouTube videos and be like, come with me to my corporate job. I thought it would be those type of vibes, but it wasn't that. So I had to adjust and accept that truly, when we say there's different settings in which social workers practice, it means that the university gives you a framework, and then the workplace gives you your context. And what I want to say about that is that you have to find a way to merge and make the two work. Yes, in your head you thought that you would have access to your own transport, and now you are there in this place where you have to be sharing the vehicle amongst other social workers. Be smart about it. Create a timetable. How can you best go about it so that we do not attend home visits at the same time with your fellow social worker, which clashes and which also poses safety concerns if the driver who's dropping off has to drop this one off and then drop you off. You are now each singly left alone, and that's a safety concern. So what do? Create a timetable. Oh, fellow social worker, I'll attend to my home visits on Tuesdays and Thursdays, for example, and you can take Mondays and Wednesdays, and then we use Fridays for admin work, for example. Then you know that the transport that is allocated can be there, the driver can be there, and also foresee your safety concerns and ensure that you're not left in a situation in which you're vulnerable while performing your social work duties. Or when you were doing your practicals, you were placed in an organization where if you came across vulnerable populations, you had the resources within that organization in which you were placed in for your practicals to immediately assist. Say a child came in and they did not have school shoes, you had the means to request from your organization to purchase the particular shoes for that child, or you had the means to maybe distribute food vouchers for those children which you found would go 4 times hungry and all of that. But now you find yourself suddenly placed in an organization, now that you're working, where there's not enough resources. You perhaps only able most times to only offer psychosocial support. What do you then do? That is where the point comes in, that you have to try and merge the two. If you are an empathetic social worker, you will not be at peace with simply just offering the psychosocial service all the time and did not go beyond. Yes, you can refer to other organizations that offer other services such as nutritional support or whatever else that the clients may need at the time. But as a social worker, you could also devise a plan, a strategy for yourself. What I did when I found myself in that situation is I came up with a project, a clothing bank. I called it Caesar. Caesar, which means to help. So I came up with Caesar Food and Clothing Bank, where I literally went around asking for sponsorships and donations for such instances where I had a child come in, or I had a client come in, and sometimes you cannot speak to some, they're hungry. They're hungry in that moment. You cannot wait to refer them or whatever. And I would feel at times that I can't I can't be offering words when in that instance the person needed food, you know. So I would refer to the center nearby because they offered food. If it were possible, I would then take from the Food and Clothing Bank, which was sponsored by people in the community. It was relieving to me to know that I only offer not just hope, but also I can be able to meet you at your immediate need. So basically what I'm saying is, you're a social worker, get creative, make a plan. The social worker makes a plan. My third point, you know, if you master this one, you will go a long way. But if you are Miss Arrogant, Miss I know it all, believe you me, you will struggle. Your first job is not to change everything. It is to understand the system. And I know it's very hard to do that when you are new in the field, because you come in with a whole ball of energy. You are young, you are vibrant, you are passionate. Oh, I learned this in school. Oh, we used to do this. I was also like that. In the beginning. I remember at some point, oh goodness, I cringed at the thought of it. I remember at some point, I was so brave and passionate and driven to even suggest reporting tools to my own supervisor without even understanding how they do things. I would say, no, this is what I learned at university. This is what my lecturer used to. Oh, this is what my supervisor, where I was doing my practicals, used to do. And honey, if you go on about like that, I'm not saying it's an entirely bad thing, but please take the time to understand how they do things there. Do not enter the space or the environment to want to change things like this, like that, because believe you me, you'll be met with so much resistance. I will share an experience. I remember because I was part of a big team, and I believe as a social worker, I did have my practical experience, but like as a new entering social worker, it was quite a big team to manage because I was responsible for managing the center where social welfare services were being assessed, and we had a whole team of peer group trainers over there, HIV testing counselors. So it was quite a lot of people. And again, mind you, I'm entering there fresh from varsity, zero experience. And I thought I knew it all. I really thought I knew it all. I remember conducting my first staff meeting, team meeting at the center. And I thought Nishail, because I'm a public speaker. Check who you're talking to. I conducted the meeting, and after the meeting, I was shocked at how much of a disaster it was. And I could not understand, what did I say? What did I do? And I realized at a later stage that the way I had come across, the way I had approached the meeting, ignited a resistance because I was trying to change a lot of things at the same time. You know, they were not used to being addressed the way I was being addressed. The things I was introducing and the way in which I was introducing to them, it was not something that I'd been used to. My pointers here are: arrogance will make you fumble, and have one person who's been in the organization for a while that you can build a relationship with and that you can fully trust, who can show you the ins and outs low-key. Because if you don't have an inside person, you will make a lot of decisions that are not informed by the system and how things are generally done, and those usually normally end up in disaster. I had someone that I trusted and I was close to that I trusted her advice, but also I was also mindful of not taking literally or taking everything she said in its literal sense. But I was fortunate enough to have that person that I could go to and ask, is this how things are really done, or am I being fooled here? Or how do I navigate the situation? Who do I go to? Who do I talk to ensure that 1, 2, 3 is done and it's done in a certain way? And it really helped. Keyword in not trying to change anything. Do not also be too humble in the sense that now you seem like you do not know anything at all. You do come with a certain skill set. So you must also be confident and trust that skill set that you do provide and come with. I remember because I was not familiar with the program, it was my first time navigating the program. I remember my certain advisor calling me to the side and saying, you are saying you don't know a lot of times during meetings or during engagements, and that makes you. And that really helped me a lot because I learned to say, I'm not so familiar with 1, 2, 3. Please give me time to go and explore and do my research, and then I'll come back to you about it. And that's when I'd go to her and also try and have informal conversations with other co-workers to find out how things really went. And yeah, that does not make you seem clueless, doesn't make you seem dumb or anything like that. So in your learning or trying not to change things, be careful not to be influenced or swayed by the status quo to a point where it becomes hard for you to implement your duties. And that brings me to my final point. If you were in your first month of practicing and you feel like you're clueless, you don't know anything, trust me, you know way more than you think you do. It's in navigating what you've learned with your contexts. Be adaptable, be flexible. It's not that what you learned at school or at university is redundant or cannot be applied. You just need to be creative, you need to be open-minded, you need to be strategic, and you also need to be a team player in order to be able to learn the ins and outs of the community that you will find yourself in, the organization that you'll find yourself in, the staff setting that you'll find yourself in, and that will assist you greatly in implementing whatever you know or have learned as a social worker. I remember my first few days, I used to find myself frustrated so many times, and I would cry literal tears to my supervisor. And most times my frustration would not necessarily come from me not knowing my duties or knowing what is expected of me as a social worker, but it would come from the undermining because I was young, the undermining because I was different from everyone or most people within the setting, the undermining because some people just genuinely don't like you. My supervisor was like to me, "Hi, girl, you went to school for 4 years, NQF level 8. Ufundile, you're the professional in the setting. You went to school for this. It's in here. Learn to apply it." And that really woke me up. That really shook me. And it's definitely advice that I passed down to social auxiliary workers that I've worked with. And it's advice that I passed down to the social worker that took over me at some point in our organization, that you're the social worker here. You are the social worker here. The 4 years were for nothing. NQF level 8, honey, not for nothing. So apply it, use your knowledge, trust yourself, trust your skill sets. You've gone through practicals, you've gone through the theories over and over, you've gone through supervision as you were being trained as a social worker, supervision at your placement organization, supervision with your lecturers at university. So trust yourself, trust what you've learned, apply it without fear. You know, you will not always get it right the first time, but next time you'll know what to do differently. Next time you'll know how to better approach it. So yeah, I guess we've come to the end of our first episode, which was theory meets practice. I really hope that it lands. I personally enjoyed it. I am super excited for my episodes. I do not know exactly what the next episode is going to be about, but I know I'm going to love it. I'm going to enjoy it because why? I'm a yapper. I love talking, and let us engage. Please do share your opinions, share your thoughts, share your experiences if you can, and I will make sure to respond and reply to all of them. To new student social workers, new practicing social workers, boy, that's in the road is walkable. I don't even think that's English. I don't think that's English, but yeah, if I could put it in isiZulu, it is possible. Trust yourself. School was not for nothing. And yes, you are there to make the impact, and it's possible to do just that. And that is it for me, Nontuthuko, that you can call Nontu. See you next time on, what's the name of my channel again? on, early practice notes from one social worker to another social worker. Bye.